let's cut right to the chase. If you clicked on this video because of what you saw in the thumbnail, I have to sadly report to you that what you saw in the thumbnail was not masterful photoshopping on my part. It is 100% real. Gavin Newsom tweeted it out earlier today, stating, "New merch coming soon, you're welcome, Patriots," with 4 American flags. And it is a hat that says Newsom was right about everything, and it's on the red Trump-style hat. Of course, the comments are chewing him up for this, including Dom Luker. "You people can't come up with anything original. You're a thief just like most of the residents of your state." And that just about sums all of that up pretty accurately. However, I want to make a video on this because Gavin Newsom has been copying Trump now for quite a few weeks, actually. It's something that I first originally noticed a while back and actually just mildly chuckled at, both out of pity and out of genuine humor, because some of it is mildly funny, or at least it was. However, he's gone off the deep end with this, and now it's starting to showcase more of a Trump derangement syndrome emerging from Gavin Newsom in a horrendous way. It's gone from being mildly funny at best to absolutely cringe. And what really started this is also highlighted on his new page, Governor Newsom's press office, which is a direct mockery copy of Rapid Response 47, the Twitter page that reports on everything Trump tweets and does very quickly. So now Gavin has his own page in the same fashion, where it tweets on stuff that he's doing and on radical opinions that he may have. And of course, periodically they create these parody tweets in all capitalizations that sound eerily like Trump's tweets. This one particularly highlights how this all started, in my opinion. "Wow, my maps, the best maps ever made, will soon pass in the greatest legislator anywhere in the world, not just America. America can thank me, Gavin C. Newsom, and 2 very special people, Magic Mike and Rainmaker Robert, who led the legislator. Total legends. These are perfect, beautiful maps. Better than Columbus, better than Google Maps, better than Apple Maps. Sorry, Tim, no gold bar for me, but I still love you. People are already screaming, 'Mama, Mama,' and I say, no, I am your daddy. The golden era begins in the golden state, all because of me, the people's governor." And he signs it GCN, just like Donald Trump would sign DJT. So you can see what's going on here. It's mildly funny, but what's happening is it's being brought to this extreme now, and it's turning into a very cringe-worthy moment on social media and in the news as the news cycles pick this up, especially when, as I show later on, they're tweeting out blatant misinformation that gets proven and now is being used against them, because whoever's running this Gavin Newsom press office is incredibly ill-informed and clearly relies on CNN for all of their facts, which will ultimately be the downfall of this image-based imitation on X. But I'll show that later. What I'm pointing out here is the Texas redistricting and President Donald Trump organizing Republican states in a fashion to redistrict their states in order to maintain control of Congress and Senate in the midterm elections has really sent Gavin Newsom off the deep end. He's now obsessed with gerrymandering California even more than it's already been gerrymandered, and he is obsessed with getting even over Texas redistricting their state and now likely taking control of 5 more seats in Republican GOP favor. You can see in this little press conference he held that this is his obsession now, and not only that, but pay attention to the first 2 things he says. He's even now in person trying to emulate the way Donald Trump talks.
Because I'm eager to sign a bill that no other governor in U.S. history has ever signed, a bill that will put the maps in front of the voters. We will be the first state in U.S. history to, in the most democratic way, submit to the people of our state the ability to determine their own maps.
Now, not only is that a complete lie, because what Gavin Newsom is trying to do here is actually seize control of redistricting California, removing it from the hands of committees that are run by citizens of California and turning it over to state powers and legislators, and likely himself as well, so that he can gerrymander the hell out of his state in any way he sees fit. But on top of that, just again, like I said, the way he's talking, no other governor in American history has done this. California, the best state, blah, blah, blah. He's talking like President Donald Trump is, because what Gavin Newsom has seen is President Donald Trump talk like this and act like this and use it to maximum effect to be incredibly popular with America. And now Gavin Newsom thinks he's going to copy that and pull it off. And the question is, will Gavin Newsom succeed with this strategy? I'm going to address that in a couple minutes here in this video, showing you not only a Harry Enton CNN report that does show that this strategy is working, but also diving deep into the details of that report to show the actual truth behind whether or not this is working in a way that CNN would never report. But first, I want to point something out here. When it comes to the matter of redistricting California and essentially gerrymandering the state even more to maintain complete Democrat control and give Democrats the best chance of winning in the midterms, Gavin Newsom was interviewed by David Pakman, a liberal YouTube political commentator who, in all honesty, sort of exposed just how corrupt the Democrats are here by asking straight up questions like this. Take a listen.
Folks like Dave Wasserman and others have run the numbers on the hypothetical of, okay, Texas does it, and then California does it, but then what about everybody jumping in on this? And his concern, or not concern, it's my concern based on his analysis, is that the blue states are pretty much maxed out other than in California in terms of what can be done. And some examples are, you look at Illinois, which has been talked about, and the numbers there don't really leave much to do. New York maybe has a little more opportunity, but the rules there are more complicated, and there are legal doubts as to whether New York could do what you're looking to do in California, and the other states simply have too small of a population. So the point here, Governor, is if everybody does it, if Texas and California doing it opens the floodgates, that it's actually not that useful to Democrats and may not give much of a net benefit at all. Have you seen those numbers? Have you thought about that analysis?
Yeah, they're different estimates. Maryland may be able to move. I do think I do think Hochul in New York, they have a little bit of movement. There was some expression of concern a few years ago in terms of what they did or didn't do in that respect. And look, I'm not here. It's not what happens to us. It's how we respond to what happens to us. And we're responding to what happened to us in Texas, what's happening in real time. If we don't do it, they will do it. They've done it, and they will continue to do more. At least we can punch back. At least we can neutralize the largest state that likely is moving forward in this afternoon, and that's Texas. And then we could put pressure on those other states and potentially put pressure on other blue states to at least test your theory of the case, test the theory that some are asserting. But if we don't do that, we're toast.
The bottom line here is they're toast either way because I can't believe I'm going to say this, but David Pakman is actually completely correct and justified in bringing up this point. I've done a lot of research on this, and there is in fact very little juice left to squeeze, metaphorically speaking, for the Democrats when it comes to redistricting their blue states and gerrymandering them even more. And why is that? It's because they've already been doing this. They want you to think that the Republicans are big, bad, evil scumbags full of corruption that are embracing this gerrymandering strategy that we've never seen before. But the fact of the matter is, we've seen this already. The Democrats have been doing it for years, and they've gotten away with it. And now the Republicans, in a much more justifiable manner, are redistricting their states properly, mind you, because the Texas state constitution, for instance, allows for the redistricting of their states to happen at any point in time, unlike California, which has a state constitution that only permits their state to go through redistricting once every 10 years, which is why Gavin Newsom now has to change the state constitution, or at least try to change it, by obtaining 2/3 of a vote in the state of California in order to do so, essentially stripping Californian citizens from their power to redistrict their own state, mind you. Texas, on the other hand, is doing this completely legally, lawfully, and justifiably. And the thing is, David Pakman, once again, was right, because what winds up happening here is Illinois can't gerrymander much more than they already have. California can try to remove their 5 seats, but obtaining 2/3 of the vote is going to be very difficult. New York is going to have to go through a lot of legal loopholes in order to pull off what Gavin Newsom is trying to pull off in California as well. And a lot of other blue states are just not going to be able to really squeeze anything out of their state much more than they already have. Meanwhile, you look at a lot of these red states. We have Kentucky, we have Texas, we have Florida, we have North Carolina. We have a bunch of states ready to go that can pick up 1 or 2 or 3 or even in some cases 4 or 5 more seats. And the math isn't going to math well when it comes to the Democrats' strategy of trying to fight back on this, mainly because, once again, I cannot stress enough, the Democrats have been the scumbags gerrymandering their states for years, and now that the tables have turned, they can't stand it. This has broken Gavin Newsom, which is why we now see him absolutely in a fractured state copying President Donald Trump, because I think the only thing Gavin Newsom thinks he has left now is to focus on his 2028 presidential campaign, which is clearly what he's starting to do already. Now, the only question is, like I said, is it working? This is a report from Harry Enton, who I generally actually really like on CNN. He gives pretty realistic and pretty fair reporting when it comes to statistics for both parties. This is his report and analysis on Gavin Newsom's latest escapades on social media, where he's kind of copying President Donald Trump rather shamelessly.
It's showing signs of working. And let's take a look at the voters who know Gavin Newsom best. Those voters out in California, those California Democrats. California Democrats and Newsom for governor, you go back to 2023, just 35% wanted him to run for president. Look at the percentage now who are excited for a run for president for Gavin Newsom. What is that? That's a 40-point climb. My goodness gracious, a rising tide of support for Gavin Newsom. Remember, back in 2023, the majority of Democrats did not want Joe Biden to run for another term, but California Democrats in Gavin Newsom's home state did not want him to run either. And now 75% are excited for him to run. And more than that, he's getting a higher percentage of the vote than Kamala Harris in her home state. He is beating the former vice president, who, of course, was the Democratic nominee in 2024. As I said, a rising tide of support for the California governor.
And so, wow, things are really looking good for Gavin Newsom. It looks like he has found a winning strategy in the fact that he has just decided that Trump is charismatic, creative, and original, and he's not, so he's just going to copy Trump and use this to win the 2028 presidential elections when those occur. But hold on, not so fast. Because even though Harry Enton is correct in his polling numbers based off of who he polled, the key word in his report is Californian Democrats. Mind you, these are the numbskull voters who continue to vote Democrat despite the fact that their entire state is hundreds of millions of dollars in the hole under Gavin Newsom's leadership. Their state continues to burn to the ground, and people's houses who have been lost have not been given building permits to rebuild their homes, and in fact are actually in danger of having the burnt land that they owned seized by their own Californian government so that they can steal it essentially and build low-income, affordable apartment housing on it. And these are the voters that are all perfectly content with this because they're low IQ liberal morons. And so when you actually look at what's going on with Gavin Newsom's favorability beyond just California numbskull Democrat voters, it tells a much different story than what Harry Enton's report would show you. And that is that, in fact, Newsom has a 27% favorability rating based off of a combined 30 different polls. This was reported on today, Newsom's favorable, unfavorable poll. He is 49.2% unfavorable, and he has become more unfavorable since around July, but especially since this past week in August. And so it's not actually overall looking good for Gavin Newsom, probably because I'm willing to wager most people find what he's doing to be incredibly cringe. And the cringeworthiness of him copying President Donald Trump only gets worse, which I'm going to show once again just a little bit later on in this video. But before I do that, I want to show off what a real governor looks like. This is Ron DeSantis' thoughts on Gavin Newsom getting cheeky with Trump on social media.
Governor, before we get to immigration, I got to ask you about Newsom. You know, you debated this guy. You've seen what he's all about. He's acting real tough now online, or he has a little army that's doing his work for him. What do you make of this guy?
Well, obviously, he's got a very poor record, and we showed that when we did the debate. But, you know, he's spending all this time being cheeky on social media, and yet people can't get permits to rebuild their homes in Southern California. We had an issue where you had an illegal alien truck driver that got a commercial driver's license in the state of California, employed by a California company, kill 3 people in Florida. This guy didn't even speak English. We're bringing him up on charges. He's going to face a lot. And I can announce, Jesse, that I said initially the company needs to be held accountable, and we've been working with the federal government, and they are pulling that company's license to do business because you cannot employ somebody who cannot read the road signs. Why is he spending all this time, trying to be fresh with President Trump? Why doesn't he do his job and protect the people? And as much as we somehow poke fun at California, oftentimes because of all the problems that the liberal policies have allowed, that is spilling over into the rest of the country. And Florida is a tragic example with 3 of our fellow citizens who are dead because of his sanctuary policies.
And by now, of course, you've probably seen the news about that illegal immigrant truck driver who made a ridiculous U-turn on the Florida Turnpike Highway that resulted in the death of 3 people who wound up ultimately smashing in to the side of the tractor trailer on the highway. It was a horrendous scene, and of course, Gavin Newsom, in typical liberal fashion, tried to not only deflect all of the blame onto President Donald Trump, because that's all liberals know how to do nowadays, but he also, using his cringeworthy mockery page of Rapid Response 47, the Gavin Newsom press office, you can see here that they put together this little infographic where they attempted to willingly mislead people on X and blame President Donald Trump for the illegal immigrant truck driver making the illegal U-turn and killing 3 people in Florida. They were plastering this in response to so many people on X, including the Rapid Response 47 page itself they responded to. They were putting this everywhere. And then they were asking Grok who was president in 2018. But what they should have actually been asking Grok was, who approved the CDL license for the illegal immigrant?
But they got one in California. We brought you this story yesterday, and it looks like they were able to, it was denied, the work permit was denied by the Trump administration, but the Biden administration granted them that work visa.
But of course, that didn't stop Governor Gavin Newsom from deciding to continue his trying to cosplay as Donald Trump by getting on Twitter and talking a big game, talking smack, saying, hey, genius, talking to the Trump administration. The federal government, Trump admin, already confirmed that this guy meets federal and state immigration requirements. You issued him a work permit as usual. The Trump administration is either lying or clueless. P.S. at Grok, who was the president in 2018. So this was all part of Gavin Newsom trying to pretend like he's a tough guy like Donald Trump because he doesn't have enough to do in his own state, like rebuilding neighborhoods that were burned to the ground by the wildfires. Tricia McLaughlin, DHS Assistant Secretary, responds and absolutely destroys him, saying false. Harjinder Singh, who's the driver of the truck that did the illegal U-turn, who's an illegal and should not have had a license, is in the United States illegally, and his work authorization was rejected under the Trump administration on September 14th, 2020. It was later approved under the Biden administration, June 9th, 2021. The state of California issues commercial driver's licenses. There is no national CDL. Sincerely, genius. So she came bringing the receipts and dropped a ton of bricks on Gavin Newsom's head.
I love that she knows the exact dates.
Oh, yeah.
September 14th.
And so once again, in typical liberal fashion, they try to deflect all the blame onto the president because they cannot accept accountability for anything that is their fault. And it all comes back to bite them. And finally, if you thought it couldn't get any more pathetic for Gavin Newsom, it can. This report has now come out that the Gavin Newsom staff is apparently using AI to write the Trump-esque copycat tweets for Gavin Newsom and his press page. You can see it says, no wonder they are unfunny and too repetitive. Nothing the left does is organic. So sad and so true. What are your thoughts and opinions on this, though? Leave a comment down below because it truly helps the video perform well in the algorithm, and subscribe right now to American Advocates if you enjoyed this content. However, if you think Gavin Newsom would make an excellent president in 2028 and you're ordering a Newsom was right about everything hat, be sure to dislike this video and never come back. You're pathetic. Thanks for watching.